Hey everyone, welcome back to this video. We're going to be discussing agency growth tools and the underutilized ad placements for ad optimization. Now, for those of you who are brand new to any sort of advertising, keep in mind this is really important information to know if you're looking to grow your agency, but also when you're talking to your clients, you could discuss with them some of the placements that are going to help them with not only their exposure, but possibly even their lead flow. So let's keep this really quick. How do you keep track of and find your prospects, and are all your clients referrals? Now keep in mind, a lot of us in the very beginning, many of your clients are going to be referral based, and because of that, it's okay. But you want to be able to keep track of these individuals to the point where, well, for one, you don't want to lose any communication with them. You want to make sure that you're having the best possible experience you can create with them, and a lot of that has to do with communication. So how do I go about doing that? Well, look, I have a fan page. I use Messenger quite a bit when I'm communicating with people, whether it's client communication or just from a communication standpoint of I'm getting to be introduced to them. Maybe there's something I'm going to be doing with them in the future. So we're just starting the process of learning more about each other here. I also use Messenger quite a bit because a lot of the higher end B2B and B2C people that I work with come from LinkedIn. So if you're not spending a lot of time there, much of the content you post on Facebook also can work on LinkedIn. I use Calendly for scheduling calls. It integrates perfectly with Google Calendar. And I also use Zoom for all the live calls, which for many of you is what you use as well. But if you're not using Zoom, it works incredibly well. If you want to add another tool to the mix, I use Asana in order to manage these clients so that I'm able to keep track of everything on a project by project basis. And it helps quite a bit when you're looking to make sure everything is done with those clients from beginning to end. Now, how do I go about finding these big value agency clients? That's what everyone's asking for in the very beginning. Everyone wants to have the biggest and largest contracts they can get. Well, let's consider this. A lot of the clients that I generated in years past and even this year was done with any variation of the following that you see on your screen. I've garnered a lot of press, whether it's through publications or podcasts. I've been on web shows. I've written dozens upon dozens of case studies, and a lot of this content you'll notice is not just from yourself, right? Case studies you're doing yourself, but the podcasts and web shows and press are all secondary, right? Meaning that someone else is mentioning you, whether it's direct or indirect, and what you're doing with your business and your clients. Training webinars, real training, actual content-based webinars, nothing where you're trying to sell, just adding tons of value to people's Facebook groups or maybe their email list. Just giving them as much value as can be given without trying to sell, oftentimes builds that goodwill that you need for just one person in that audience to be like, I need to work with this person. Obviously, video testimonials and client screenshots help a ton as you start to work with more people because now you're providing the proof that is needed for people to trust what it is that you're doing. And lastly, events. Huge opportunity because of the fact that most people, when they go to events, obviously they're thinking, I just got to sell as many people as possible. Not necessarily. If you're going to events with the purpose of integrating and meeting with lots of people, you never know who they may know or who that person they introduce you may know that needs what it is you have to offer. So you're able to essentially build your network much faster doing not just the event side of things, but incorporating all of this on your screen over time, especially if you can make it to where it just seems like you're adding so much value to the marketplace that people just naturally want to work with you. Now let's also talk about content ideas. Oftentimes people are just focused around lead generation. They don't put any effort into their content, but the content is what garners the attention in the first place. So, just read some of your competitors' blogs, get some frequently asked questions. What are people asking you over and over and over that you can answer? Maybe turn into a 60-second video, 3-minute video, just putting content out there that shows that you know what it is that you're doing. Also, recording expert interviews, or maybe you're the expert that's in the interview, or doing a podcast. Nothing wrong with doing your own podcast for the sake of learning about what other people do in their business. And obviously, at the end of that podcast, you can always ask, what can I do to help you? You never know, it might spark up a conversation around helping them with their advertising or whatever service you provide. Ask questions to your audience. People people you don't know are going to follow along with what it is you're putting out there. See if they have anything that you can answer. And the more that you can answer these questions, the more you prove your worth. Saying thank you to people as you reach milestones. Nothing wrong with telling people how great things have been for you and how things have continued to progress. Why not talk about those milestones? People love to be a part of a journey. And then lastly, live streaming with your guests, whether it's at events, guests as in people in your groups. Live streaming just provides more credibility and more opportunity for you to integrate with people who follow you. Now let's take it one step further with the content side. Some of the best content that I've used on Facebook for lead generation have been videos, photos, and long form written content. Now, for a lot of people, they're thinking, that's an obvious thing. Well, think about this. For video, I often find that story-based content, such as overcoming obstacles, goals I've reached, testimonials, basically are the best performing videos I can create. They automatically will generate 1 to 3 clients every time I put something out like this, because everyone loves a good story, and especially something where it's like a comeback story. But then live streaming, whether it's through updates or tips or coming soon type content, that always helps with getting people to see that things are in motion, something is happening. There's a lot more being done behind the scenes that they don't know, and those questions that come up from that type of content can lead to more conversation around seeing if there's ways you can help them out. Photos, whether it's with influencers, team members, at events, results, similar to like what you see on the screen, those are always great, but you have to provide context, right? That's where your ad copy or the copy you're writing from an organic standpoint will do its job. But the same thing goes with long form written content. I love this the most. It's basically case studies or top 5 or 7 strategy. This is the content that generates the most lead flow for me, whether it's organically or through ads, because it shows that, 1, I'm able to break down a process that can work for multiple people, but 2, it incorporates results as well. And what speaks better than results? Now, we talked about the audiences that are underutilized, but let's keep this in mind. A lot of people forget that custom audiences and lookalikes and a combination of that for retargeting are widely available to you that you probably have not used to its fullest capability. I'm sure a lot of you have seen customer files and website traffic, but how much have you really dug into the engagement side? Creating those video view audiences and the lead form audiences and the Facebook and Instagram page audiences, and doing them by different time frames of 7, 14, 30 day, 60 day, 90 day, 180 day, even 365 day audiences, and seeing how those perform and whether or not those lookalikes of each of the time frames perform. There's a lot of ways that you can utilize this content, these audiences for the content you're going to be providing to the masses on Facebook, that if you put them in order for your clients, you will get the maximum benefit from day one. But how do you utilize these audiences with underutilized placements? Let's talk about that for a minute. So marketplace. A lot of people have been seeing marketplace show up under placements lately. Quite honestly, if you're selling anything from an e-commerce or physical product standpoint, you need to use marketplace. Not necessarily posting in the marketplace, but I'm talking about using that as a placement. Your ad comes up when it comes to interested targets or any sort of keywords that are related to products that they are looking up on the marketplace, and then yours comes up as sponsored. If it's something that's related, then naturally they click it, and well, it could lead to more sales. How about Facebook in-stream or even the audience network? Now, I know a lot of people talk crap about the audience network, but we're not just talking about the sole purpose of the audience network being to generate leads. It also works really, really well from a retargeting standpoint because the traffic is so cheap. So you can look at it as a way to use this placement to make sure that whomever has landed on something of yours in the past, whether it's to sign up for a webinar, opt in for a freebie, or maybe even buy a product, you can utilize this placement to maximize the awareness around bringing them back and possibly having them buy from you. And it's quite cheap to do so. How about suggested videos? Once again, it's another opportunity for people to promote their content through the Facebook video feeds, and suggested videos have done really, really well. Some people it says suggested videos, some people it says video feeds. Either way, it's basically when your ad comes up mid-roll or after a video and you come up as a sponsored video, but you come right after or during a piece of content that's related to what it is you're putting out there. Hopefully it's related. And so in using this, once again, very cheap placement to use, helps a ton when it comes to awareness, and if utilized correctly, it can be a great lead generator and for really low cost. Stories. I don't know why people aren't using stories more, because it's been some of the most profitable ads that I run is Instagram stories, and now you have Facebook stories and Messenger stories. So essentially 15 seconds or less. If you do a bundle of 3 15-second videos together as a 45-second ad, you can do that as well. They work great. They're very cheap to run, great for retargeting, works amazing with e-commerce. Digital product, I see it work best when it comes to retargeting, not necessarily on the front end, but always worth a shot. Point is, if you're not using stories, highly suggest you do so immediately. How about messenger ads? These are basically ads that pop up in your messenger inbox. I know a lot of people are thinking that this doesn't work. If I see them in my messenger, I'm not going to click them at all. Once again, it's not for the sole purpose of generating the most leads. It's about awareness and making sure that people are given the attention to your ad that maybe they didn't give in the newsfeed or a story or anything else. Honestly, I select this placement all the time because anytime I do so, I find that my CPMs go down, so it's always worth incorporating, especially since it's not like they're going to spend the majority of your budget on this placement, but it's always worth incorporating anyway. And lastly, sponsored messages. Still something that a lot of people don't use, mainly because they don't know how to use it or how to set it up. But in using sponsored messages, you're able to message engagement audiences, people who've directly messaged you on Instagram, messaged you on Facebook, and send them a sponsored message similar to what you see on your screen. Maybe it's a discount code, maybe it's getting them to re-engage with something you've sent them. But I find that some of the best sponsored ads you can run are during holiday season or even during holidays in general with some sort of discount code, and the first people that see it are the ones who've messaged you in the past. So if you're not using this type of ad placement or any of the placements that I've mentioned, along with the custom audiences and lookalike audiences, you're highly missing out on not just cheaper traffic, but also traffic that maybe you didn't even know existed. So in doing so, understanding these placements, understanding the purpose of these placements and how to utilize them will also make you seem a lot smarter in your conversation with potential clients because they want to know what's going to differentiate you from those who've possibly run their ads in the past. So if you utilize the tools I mentioned and you're able to discuss more about the different types of audiences you're going to utilize in order to get them results, well, guess what? You also have content you can create in order to do some lead generation. So with that being said, I hope you find a lot of value in this video, and if you keep watching, you'll see a lot more awesomeness when it comes to agency tools.